First, I'll introduce myself. My name is Peter Kelly-Detwiler. I write for Forbes, and I also, I used to head up Constellation Energy's demand response group, and now I'm a strategic energy consultant. And I still don't know what that means, but one of these days I will. It just means I do anything anyone asks me to do as long as there's a check at the end of it. So today, we are going to be talking about these partnerships. We have folks from the Energy Co-op, Avista, and Itron, and I'm going to have each one of them introduce themselves. If you can talk for about 2 minutes about the main challenges you're working to address, and then we'll kick off the conversation. Then someone over there is going to be holding up cards telling me as we get closer. We'll open it up at the end for about 5-7 minutes of questions from the audience, and if you don't have any, I'll pepper you ladies with even more of them. So, please, Heather.
Start? All right.
Yep.
I'm on. Okay. So I'm Heather Rosentrater. I'm the Vice President of Energy Delivery with Avista. We're a electric and gas utility located in Spokane, Washington, and serve northern Idaho and eastern Washington, and then we have gas customers in southern Oregon as well. And I've been the Avista representative as part of our Spokane Smart City effort for the last 3 years. And one of the opportunities that we've seen with collaborating with the City of Spokane and with Itron and with Washington State University around smart cities is to help change the direct trajectory of our load growth. You know, we always hear as utilities, healthy community is a healthy utility. You've got to have good economic development in your community to have a strong utility in the future, and especially it's even more important to take intentional action from the utilities perspective, because our trends without that intentional action into the future in terms of customer growth is not that great. And so we see the smart city effort, which we've branded as Urbanova late last year, as one of those opportunities to help create economic development and really foster innovation both at Avista and within the Spokane community.
Thank you. And Sharelynn.
Hi, I'm Sharelynn. Oh, it works. I'm Sharelynn Moore, and I run global marketing for Itron. We're a global technology company. We're really laser focused on innovating next generation technologies that help utilities and now cities automate to drive efficiencies in how they're delivering electricity, gas, and water, as well as sensing and bringing to life data to create new insights and solve problems in new ways. So along with Heather, I've been Itron's representative, assisting with Urbanova, as well as helping guide some of our other investments around smart cities. Not only what we're doing from a technology standpoint, but how we can get these business models off the ground, how they're going to be funded, and how we actually create that impact and really create scalable solutions that are really going to help us address next generation utilities, business models, as well as really make an impact on our cities.
Thank you. And Damali.
Hi, good afternoon. I am Damali Rest. I am the Executive Director of the Energy Cooperative Association of Pennsylvania, is our full name, and we are better known as the Energy Co-op. We are a nonprofit, member-owned retail electric cooperative. We also have a renewable natural gas product, and then kind of in a more traditional sense, have heating oil that we purchase on behalf of our members. And I think to your question of one of our greatest challenges is kind of the education piece. And so in this space, there are not really many retail cooperatives. And so the things that make us different and unique are our members own us, our members vote, our members show up for annual meetings, and then our members also have a input into the products that we offer. So for example, we offer a 100% Pennsylvania-based product that is a direct result of our members asking how they can support, green jobs in Pennsylvania. And I think that makes us unique. So one of the things we're fighting is how do we educate people, not just on choice, and kind of get them to be engaged in their communities, and from a standpoint of, we want them to choose us, but why should they care that we're a co-op? Why does that matter? How does that make us different? Some of you guys work for some of the parent companies of our competitors, but what do we have that's unique around this cooperative model and why that matters?
Thank you. And you had mentioned when we were on the phone about the relationship you are developing in Philadelphia. Can you expound on that a little bit for the people here in the audience?
So sure. So one of the things, I'm actually pretty new to this role. So I'm a recovering strategic management consultant prior to joining the Energy Co-op in November. And so I lived in DC, so I'm also new to Philadelphia. And one of the things I wanted to do was really jump in, with both feet into the city. Everybody told me, Philly and the surrounding counties, people are from there, they stay there. And so we're looking at creating partnerships with municipal organizations such as the Philadelphia Energy Authority, which is an independent, municipally owned organization that really supports across an entire value chain of education, of green, of sustainability, of looking at job creation in the Philadelphia region. We also work with other organizations such as, there's actually a Philadelphia Area Cooperative Association. And so one of the things we're looking at is the co-op as an urban business model, right? So they actually have co-op incubators, which is really unique. Like I have an MBA, I know of startup incubators, but you never hear of a co-op incubator. And what does that mean from an urban perspective? And so we've been working with them since we've been around for almost 40 years to kind of say, what are the aspects of a business model that would work and support creating some of these opportunities across the city?
So if we stick with that theme of urban energy, because when we did have that conversation, that kept on coming up again and again. You were talking, Sharelynn, about Envision Charlotte and the other Envision opportunities. Can you explain that for people here, what that's looking like, what's the partnership that's evolving, and what are some of the goals of the Envision project you've been working on?
Yeah, so Itron participated early on with Envision Charlotte. And Envision Charlotte really didn't look too dissimilar to Urban Nova that we'll talk a little bit about, what Heather's going to speak to as well as I can. But really, it was this vision of how do we create, a private-public partnership to help start really creating smart cities. And so Envision Charlotte was an entity formed, but the vision and the foundation really came from the vision of Jim Rogers of Duke. And so that was where the initial, funding came. Itron is a longtime technology provider to Duke and other utilities around the Charlotte area came to the table, but it really took that, innovation of a local leader that could rally the resources to say, let's do this in our local community, and everyone, came rallying around that. So what happened is it's a set of city blocks is what's kind of cornered off around the downtown Charlotte area. And it was saying together with these, I think it's 20 downtown local buildings, come together and create some goals around energy conservation, moving to water usage, as well as moving into smarter traffic and some smarter parking type initiatives over time. And they've met and overall reducing carbon footprint. And so there's already been meeting the goals and objectives of the reduced energy use that was initially set about by Charlotte. And they did some innovative programs. We had automation technologies that Itron had provided and some of our latest technologies, but they also put together, really simple programs, which were little crabs if people found lights on. And these, again, were around kind of urban buildings downtown. UNC got involved. There was a lot of partnerships around in that local area, and it even got the attention of the White House, which is why Envision America was created, and it was really a funding mechanism to be able to model other cities to put initiatives together like Envision Charlotte is. And so in the first round, Spokane and Urban Nova became one of the Envision America cities, and that provides a format to bring people together, as well as some funding to build best practices and lessons learned. So it's really, how do we start creating more of that kind of momentum inertia? And so I think my takeaway in this is it does take, the commitment to that local community and strong leadership. And for those of us that are in the utility industry, whether it's a co-op or an investor-owned utility, a lot of times those visions and that funding comes from the utility. So when we look at smart cities, we've seen some of the greatest successes to date really start to be driven by some of the utility leaderships, including what you're talking about. So that's a bit of what we're taking away.
Well, that sounds like a perfect handoff to a leading utility. So can you expound on what's happening in Spokane, some of the different areas that we were talking about, how that's all working and some of the partnerships that are evolving in that ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll provide a little bit more detail about what Urbanova specifically is. So we focused, I mentioned who the partners were: Spokane, City of Spokane, Avista, Itron, Washington State University, and McKinstry actually as a more recent partner. And we're located in an area of Spokane called the University District. And so it's 770 acres. It's right adjacent to downtown Spokane. And it has the presence of 6 universities in the area. And what is also unique and beneficial about that area for us, other than just having some boundaries, so it's a nice place to have what we call a living laboratory where we can test these smart city technologies, is that half of it is developed and half of it is not developed or underdeveloped. So there's a huge opportunity to create smart city type of tests and type of infrastructure as we develop that area. So we have a lot of interest from those different entities as we work together to leverage infrastructure. So for example, we're talking about Avista, the utility is doing a gas and electric's advanced metering project, and we've actively been talking with the City of Spokane to have them use our same metering system for their water meters. It seems so simple and obvious that you would do that. However, it's very rare that different entities are actually using that same metering system. But we think that with the partnerships that we've created over the last 3 years and really sharing very similar interests that we have for the community, that we have the trust and the working relationship to make that kind of a project successful.
So when we were talking, Damali had talked about in the co-op increasing energy literacy, awareness of not just energy but water and gas and all those pieces. With the platform that you're working on jointly, you and Itron in this particular case, right? How do you involve the consumers so that they take that data and understand it and it's actionable to them? How do you make it something that's tangible and important?
I think Envision has a couple examples of that in terms of the kiosks. Do you want to share?
Yeah, so part of Envision Charlotte was to engage the citizens directly in energy use and conservation, as well as create shared opportunities in some of the Envision areas right downtown in Duke's headquarters of kiosks that you can, actually, we did a what is your resourceful IQ, and you go through a series of tests and see, test your energy and water literacy. So we're trying to gamify it and think of other ideas. I think it takes a multi-pronged approach, and it takes segmentation within your community, and you have to align it to what goals you're really trying to accomplish. I think right now for Urbanova, it's really how do we create the model, and how do we bring the right partnerships together to create an infrastructure that we can be used in many ways. Like Heather said, let's get water moving, and then it's those outcomes or those applications that will impact the citizens, which will be the open door to get these consumers involved. So if we were able to provide more services about their water use and more information, that's a touch point in which we'll capitalize on that and say, this is what we're doing because Spokane's a smart community. So I think we have to have something that makes a difference for them, so we'll be really smart about how we do it.
Okay, thank you. I remember being once at a cocktail party. A friend of mine said to me, who's in the business in energy efficiency, said, used to be when I was at a cocktail party, I would talk to people about what I did when they asked, and their eyes would glaze over. And he said, but then that changed. And I remember at a Christmas party 4 years ago, a woman came up to me and said, someone told me you know a lot about microgrids. And I thought, oh my gosh, the moment has arrived. And so, so Damali, in your co-op, what kind of evolution of energy, water, general resource conversation have you seen over the last, say, 5 years that flows into these partnerships and helps to reinforce what you're doing? What does that look like and sound like?
So, as I said, I'm new, so that's actually one of the things.
That could be an advantage,
staff,
right? Yeah.
It is, but I think that's one of the things that, as I'm developing programming, I'm considering and looking at. So for example, our annual meeting this year is actually going to be a little mini kind of conference, and part of that is actually going to be a here's why you still have to have your bill through PICO, right? Or kind of a utilities 101, because I think people don't really understand that whole process, and they don't and they get excited about it when you kind of explain it to them and why it matters to them, right? So we do get a lot of questions of why don't you guys bill us directly, or thinking about what is the process, what does it mean to actually have a renewable gas product, and what does that mean for the environment? And so I think one of the things we're starting to see as well is people also translating this idea of sustainability into broader than just energy use. So what does that mean from the choices that they make of, shopping locally? What does that mean from a wellness perspective and health? And so we're trying to kind of build this idea of sustainable communities that incorporate, your energy and relating that to the environment and relating that to wellness and relating that to improving, Philadelphia and the surrounding counties overall from an economic perspective and creating opportunities for people.
So a reintegration of things we previously broke apart. And that sounds like you're working on the same conversation in Charlotte and in Spokane. The average person who's walking down the street there, do they know what's going on? I mean, you mentioned the kiosks, but if I were to just grab a random 5 people in Spokane and say, hey, do you know anything about this partnership that's going on here? Might they know? And if so, because they saw an ad on television or their internet, or what are the other ways, the other media besides the kiosks that help to drive that information into society at large, so every man or woman can tell you something about it or knows how it affects them? Either one of you want to jump at that one?
I'll start, but Heather's going to need to jump in. I think what we're really waiting for are real tangible benefits for these consumers, and talking about infrastructure that can be used in different ways, and opening up a data model. And isn't it nice that Itron and Avista are working together, which, oh, by the way, they created us back in 1977. So, some of those things just wouldn't be meaningful. But our vision for Urbanova is that we actually create healthier citizens. We create safer communities. We do drive more jobs, and we do create innovation that does better manage electricity, gas, and water. And when we are actually proving it, and when we are actually creating value in making them healthier or safer or fitter, then I think that's the time where we're going to reach out and say, this is something you should be proud of, and this is the investment we're making in this community for you. So that's a large part of how we imagine the outreach in Spokane.
And I can say we're, the benefits of partnerships are, we think that we have a better product at the end, and there's other benefits outside of, when we're building these relationships outside of the project itself, when we're working on other things in the community. So there's huge benefits to those partnerships, but also it takes a little bit longer to get things done sometimes. And so we've been working for 3 years. We have some proof points that we're just getting installed. And so one of those is a smart street light project in the area that we're in. Avista owns, the utility owns most of the street lights. And so our normal street light planning would be asking Avista, where should we put the street light? What should we put on the street light? Let's put a street light on the street light. That's really the extent of the street light planning. However, we decided to work with these partners and ask them, if you have power and you have access to a network, you have a stationary object, but what other things would you put on a street light other than a street light? And so having that conversation created a research project at Washington State University to create air quality sensors that also have other multiple sensing capabilities. And they've been working for several months on creating these sensors, and just in the last few weeks, we've actually installed them onto the smart street lights. And then you have the smart LEDs as well that you can control when they're on or off, depending on what the pedestrian traffic is. So we feel like we're finally at the point where we have demonstration of the value that could be there for citizens. And so at these points, we'll start communicating once we start getting the results back and start getting the data back with what the value is for the citizens.
So capital has to be a little patient. for its
Just a
return
little,
on
just a
investment.
little bit more patient.
So-
That
yeah.
is, she hit on that, but,
Yeah.
When, we've talked about what the challenges are of doing something this ambitious, it is a little bit of extra time. Bringing, these groups together and deciding on what's most important, how are we going to get it done, let's work it through the channels. It takes a little bit more time, so it's really rewarding that we're actually getting there.
And the public sector involvement, say municipal governments, what's their role in the dialogue, and how easy is it to interact with them? What does that look like?
Well, it has some challenges as well, just for the same reasons of you're trying to fit with where their priorities are. They already have priorities that they've communicated broadly, so we're looking to those to say, okay, well, how can the smart city effort help you achieve the priorities that you've already communicated? And then also, they've already, what's great about the city of Spokane is they already have some smart city applications. They have smart parking, they have these smart big belly garbage cans that are solar powered and have sensors on them to tell you when to actually go and empty the garbage cans. And so for us, but right now they're all on disparate systems, then they're not an open platform. And so for us, it's working with the infrastructure that's already in place, and how do we get data that's valuable and put it on a common platform and make it open in the way that we envision for the project.
Thanks. And you had mentioned the educational opportunity. Damali, in the work that you're doing with the co-ops, are there opportunities at either the high school level or the college or even the graduate school level for people in Philadelphia or within your area to engage with what you're doing now?
Yeah, so I think, again, this idea of partnerships, and so one of the things, I've been reaching out to a lot of the area. We have something similar where we have a lot of college students and people who are all in similar areas, and so started working with, for example, the sustainability department at Temple, and looking at different ways that we can incorporate that into the community. So we participated in, I don't know if anybody here is familiar with the Land Arts Initiative, and that's an initiative where they build sculpture-like renewable energy projects. It's the most amazing thing ever. Google it on your phone.
What's it called? Land art?
The Land Arts
Okay.
Initiative. So they actually haven't
Don't
built
do
it,
it
but
now.
they do a design. They have a design contest every 2 years and design these like amazing sculptures. But on a more micro scale, they will go to like a city like Philadelphia, which has I didn't know this about Philly. So Philly is a big mural town and has a lot of kind of use on the side of buildings and across the entire city. And so they were looking at, is it feasible for us to use solar panels that are colored and flexible and design something on the sides of buildings to create renewable energy right in the city of Philadelphia, right? And so working with us, why we participated in that, because somebody kind of needs to own that, or either buy that or use that as an opportunity. Or for example, again, the Energy Authority is looking at doing a mini dam in one of the rivers. Well, that's a great opportunity for us, as a nonprofit, as a local community provider, to get involved and to say, we can create a product that then we could sell to either people in that neighborhood or people across the city to be able to do that. And so as we explore opportunities, I think that's how we engage different parts of the community. Particularly, I think one of the big things is, how do you engage low-income residents who are going to be very, very price sensitive, right? And that we really want to create both the opportunity for them to participate and then start to look at that as an opportunity for jobs, right? So as we work with local solar installations, how do we create that entire value chain? And I think that's where we sit as an energy retail provider. People want to get involved, and this is an easy way to do that by simply paying your electric bill.
So you can help to democratize the energy revolution, if you will.
That's my plan.
All right. We're going to look to see that. In the cities you've been working in, I know you mentioned in that university district all kinds of schools there. And in a conversation earlier today with Ganesh Bella from GE, and a statistic we've heard a number of times, like half the utility workforce is eligible for retirement within the next 5 or 7 years because they all look like me, which isn't a good thing. And this new workforce that's going to come in, has to be digitized. They have to know IT. They have to. So is this project a way to expose a lot of people to those challenges, to understand the algorithms that have to be built, to understand the IT platform that needs to be built in the network and so on? And if so, I'm leading the witnesses here, what does that look like in terms of the actual coursework or opportunities for engagement? Heather.
No, that's a great question, and I would say that it's a multi-fold answer in terms of, it's a great recruiting tool just being involved in it with the universities, because we are partnered with classrooms. They actually had a design class centered around smart city opportunities for Spokane, based on leveraging what we had done with Urbanova. And the things that the students came up with were just incredible and really exciting to see. So it's continuing that partnership with those students. Those students see Avista as not the stodgy old utility, but as an innovative utility that they might want to work at. Those that do have those digital skill set that we're looking for. It's also helping us internally with proof points. We continually hear about the IT/OT, the operational technology and infrastructure technology combination at utilities, and so it's helping us on a smaller scale learn about that and learn how to resource it and how to leverage it. So I would say there's a lot of opportunities to attract students and to help those students that are at the universities currently to learn more about the energy industry and about the utility industry as well.
Do some actually start off and then become interns of Avista and then
Yes.
roll into the utility?
Yep,
Okay, so it's a
absolutely.
good, and now you can identify talent and really assess
Yes.
what it looks like, right?
Exactly.
Same thing for you, Sharelynn?
Well, one of the things, we see this as it's certainly an emerging issue,
Yeah.
and one that is something important to us. One of the things that we've done to do our part in this is we've invested in digital curriculum in partnership with UT Austin and Weber's Energy Group. And we've brought to life energy water digital curriculum. Really intended for high school age students. It is all iPad or digital driven that helps take you through a full semester elective course, probably in the environmental sciences, so it can meet Common Core curriculum. Really intended to inspire youth that you do want to get involved and work in our industry, that it isn't a stodgy old industry, and that there are real problems and opportunities in energy and water that do need STEM graduates to get involved, to get inside, and to want to work for Avista or the Energy Co-op or Itron to help solve those problems. So we've made that curriculum available. It includes all of the teacher materials, again, authored by somebody that knows how to write curriculum, not Itron, but we invested in it to make that happen. And it is available for free online, so we are not charging for that. And so we're promoting that in the communities in which we're doing business, and as well as Dr. Weber's group has been working with PBS's Learning Media to make it available in those channels. So that's one thing, because we want to get kids involved early so that they want to get on career paths to get involved later.
And they're finding utilities to be exciting?
If they go through our curriculum, I think they'll find it very
Absolutely.
exciting.
We had spoken last year, because you all were here, about what was going on with the REVA, right?
Yes.
The open
Yep.
platform.
Yep.
And so essentially, can you describe that? And then,
Yes.
so it's a two-part question. A, can you describe it a little bit? And B, are there opportunities for students to write apps to that? Has that been part of what's going on?
Exactly, and it is the technology that we're partnered with Avista on and Urbanova, and it's our open networking communications platform that provides the IoT and app platform that we're making completely open to be able to run inside other applications or to run inside other devices, to be able to run on the same network. So such that Washington State University could take a sensor that has this REVA platform inside of it, write the app that manages air quality, and then they can dissect that data and see if it makes a different impact at a streetlight level of managing air quality versus at a higher level where they're managing air quality before, as an example. So what's key to the success and what we talked about last year is it has to be open. Itron's not going to write an app on air quality, and we're not going to probably put in our product roadmap actually building a very specific air quality sensor. So really this Itron Riva inside allows you to be able to put that in various applications, different devices, and let other people run apps on it. And the key to that is opening up, making it available. We're partnered with Cisco and their Cisco developer networks and making that so that their network customers and partners can run these devices, as well as at riva.com we make it available. And we've had hundreds of people buy the development kits, and we've got hundreds of people writing apps. So a lot of it is still in the, let's see what happens with Washington State University's air quality, and but it's really kind of building that momentum, and it's key. Open is where the game is.
And that was a bit unorthodox when you started, right?
Very. If you're at all familiar with Itron, and I apologize if you're not, but we were the pioneers of the ERT, which was the first device that anybody read a meter with a handheld or a drive-by system. Almost all of those devices, 150 million of them around the world, were Itrons. That is proprietary technology. And when you've got that business and it's just you and you get to provide that system, that's a good business to be in. So for us, it's a big change in philosophy to say, hey, it's open, it's not ours, have at it.
You were going to say something.
I was just going to tag on to what Sharelynn was saying in terms of also the innovation that it's encouraging within Avista, having these as tools. So we have a group that has developed itself called the Skunk Works, and they meet every Friday at lunchtime, and they have what used to be our engineering library, and now they've taken all of the old textbooks out, and they have their innovation area that they have several of these OpenWay Riva test kits that they're programming. These are power engineers that went to school for power, but they're learning how to program and really finding it very exciting to be able to use this kind of technology.
From Damali, from your perspective, what kind of technological opportunities might open up with what you're doing in the Philly area?
So I'm going to take that question, kind of expand it. I
Please.
think one of the things, and even on our call, you asked about the kind of community choice aggregation. And I think, one of the things that I think the co-op model specifically offers as more and more, consumers, and they asked the difference in the last panel about kind of consumers and ratepayers, and people are really wanting to take control of their energy. The co-op model really creates, I think, it's not a technological solution, but it creates a business model solution, because you don't actually have to go through a regulatory or legislative vote. You don't have to have a state level vote to be able to allow, a municipal owned CCA. You can actually just start a co-op. And we've gone through and kind of figured out the growing pains and things that you need to do. But if you take that business model, then you can also expand it across communities. So for example, we're in 5 counties in Pennsylvania. And so, Bucks County and Chester County and Philadelphia County, which is the city, are all very, very different. But all of the people across those can use us as kind of the aggregator to support, environmental goals, to support green jobs, to kind of support the entire infrastructure chain. And so I think that's where, from a cooperative perspective, we really offer kind of an innovation for the future of people taking control of their energy. And if you take that co-op model to its fullest point, where you would get patronage dividends based on, your energy usage, you're now actually paying yourself for using and supporting your ideas. And so again, it's taking that from a standpoint. We really don't have, unfortunately, kind of much technological advancement. That's actually a benefit for us. So all the utilities would take, kind of take the drivers. People can still go online, look at their usage, look at their bill, look and kind of understand, where they're peaking. We help them with price is a common question we get when we take our phone calls, is kind of, what am I paying? And the transparency of that, because that sometimes can get buried in bills, is also, I think, something that's unique for us.
It's an arcane language. Demand charges and time of use rates and all that stuff. I mean, when we buy a piece of pork, we don't really know all the assets of, what it costs to raise a pig and all that stuff. But when you buy electricity, you got to understand demand charges and on peak and off peak and all that fun stuff, because it's kind of enforced on us by regulators and the structure. So what's the biggest, if you're working with these partnerships, and you're trying to create these new opportunities. What's the biggest challenge in developing new partnerships that are actually fruitful rather than something that looks good, you know, from a visual, oh, these two names are tied together, but actually gets stuff done? What's the biggest challenge in that, Damali?
For me, I think it's just resources, right? So we're a nonprofit, we're very lean, we're relatively bootstrapped. And so I think one of the things I've been looking at is I do come from a larger, working with larger utilities from my management consulting background, is what's the value proposition for either utilities or larger corporations like Itron to get involved with us? What can we offer them that's going to either create an opportunity for them to really connect with customers in a different way, or why should they support us? And that's something that I've been really talking to different people about and trying to make that happen. So that's my biggest challenge, is just resources. I've thrown interns at the problem. So if anybody's in Philadelphia and knows any students, we are hiring interns. That's been my short-term solution. But my biggest challenge is really just resources.
How about you, Sharelynn? The challenge partnerships with in Envision, for example.
She's right to some respect that it's everyone's resources and time and priorities, and then aligning those. It is a lot of people to get together to move at what is their normal timeframes and move together. It's a lot of work to convene everyone together and administer that process, and I think that's why an entity like Envision Charlotte and an entity like Urban Nova become established, so that there's dedicated people that spend their whole jobs aligning and facilitating to keep the ducks in a row.
Because if they weren't there, how many cats are you herding? Is it a half dozen? Is it?
It's a half dozen that
Okay.
really matter, and then
Yeah.
another half dozen that want to kind of be involved.
Yeah.
So part of it is managing that part of it, right,
Yeah.
as well. Who really should be involved? What should they contribute? And how do you manage that that's actually happening?
Okay, so the advice there would be create an entity that has that at its sole function, that you're measuring their progress based on, here are these specific goals we've laid out.
Definitely.
Same thing.
Yeah,
Urban
and
Nova?
just again to add on that, that's what, because we're looking for additional partners. We want it to be very inclusive and to have others from outside of Spokane see the value in what we're creating, and this living laboratory come to us with recommended projects, and have us be a platform to find additional partners for those projects, as well as leveraging a data platform, an open data platform that we're trying to create. So it's trying to figure out the best fit for those partners when they come to us. People come and say they want to be involved, and so it's figuring out how to connect them with others to figure out the best way for them to be involved.
So you're building a pretty nice mousetrap in Spokane that's starting to show results. Same thing in Charlotte. Same thing happening with Philadelphia. How do you take the successes that are starting to, those nascent successes that are starting to, get out of the crib and start to walk? How do you take those and help other urban areas to replicate what you're doing? Do people, for example, fly into Spokane and walk around and you're showing them everything that's going on? Or, what's the best way to take these different laboratory experiments and have them really create future value for all of us? How do you see that working?
Well, one of the things that it requires is you have to have visionary leadership that's on the ground, that is, wanting to pull this in. It'd be hard to walk in and drum it up. So it takes that kernel of inspiration. Some of the Raleigh Triangle Clean Tech, the San Diego Clean Tech, there's a Dallas group. Some of these initiatives are very similar, and there's fires that are being lit. Utilities are getting involved, the cities are getting involved, the local universities are getting involved. So we're seeing these fires starting all over the nation and all over the world, frankly. And that's when Itron gets involved. When there's already that fire, there's already the visionary leadership and the wherewithal or the will to get involved and committed, because we've talked already across the board that this partnership that's required, the skin already has to be in the game.
And you have the tool set they can then use.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's our approach.
Heather?
I'd say it's a lot of it's with the universities. I mean, I do have a vision that in a couple years, when people across the country are saying different cities, we should look into what we can do around the smart city to make our community more productive or efficient. What are some of those shining examples that we should go look at? My hope is that Urbanova is top of list and that people are flying into Spokane and looking at some of the pilots with our smart streetlight pilot. We also have a microgrid shared energy economy pilot that we're actively working on. And so my hope is that they would come to Spokane to learn and take back to their areas, or that they look and see the resources that we already have, the competencies, the technology platforms, the partnerships, and say, we actually aren't ready to go full force with this kind of technology, but we have an interest in it. We'd like to learn more. So could we do a small pilot here in Spokane and learn from that and figure out how we expand it after that?
Thanks. Okay, so my last question before we open it up to the audience. 5 years from now, and you get 4 sentences each to describe this. 5 years from now, success to you, Heather, looks like what in 4 sentences?
Well, I shared this with Sharelynn. One of the signs of success is on our website that we have these 5 areas of goals: the healthier citizens, stronger, safer neighborhood, stronger economy. That we would have 5 projects that are going strong with multiple different partners for each one of those that are representing the success of the project as a whole.
Thank you. We'll cross our fingers for that one. Sharelynn?
What she said, and we are taking and we're seeing that we're not piloting in city blocks and in various districts, smart cities, but we are lighting up full scalable smart cities and creating economic development, smarter citizens, better productive cities themselves and the city services that they provide, and that it's driving economic gain in America's cities in a global competition of game, that it's going to become cities competing against cities, and that this smart city technology is a key enabler to that, and it's at a full scale.
So you're lighting that match across the world. Okay.
Well, America
Yeah.
first.
America, yeah, but global domination's never a bad thing. And Damali?
So for me, it's expansion both across Pennsylvania and into a new state. And then it would also be the use of patronage dividends to fund a 501c3 for low income, both solar installation as well as supporting their ability to pay for our product.
To pull everybody into this
To
energy
pull everybody
dialogue.
into the community based. So I actually, I have that down to 2.
Excellent. Okay. So questions from the audience then, please. Yes.
Why is this so hard? If you look at, because of the way we frame this discussion around partnerships.
Can everybody hear, by the way? Okay.
I'm a
Yeah.
lot now, I'm sorry, Peter.
No, it's good.
Okay, so when you look at it, when you start off and say, okay, it's necessary to form partnerships in order to enable success. The question is, when you look at the problems you're trying to solve, why are they so difficult that there haven't been market-based solutions that are already just, people are building products for them, and you ever get to market sustainability, I know patient money, patient money, right? How patient, right? So when you get past it so hard to the market-based solution where the patient money finally doesn't have to be patient.
Well, I think that there's a chicken and an egg here. What a smart city is, in our definition, is not piloted, disparate systems that are in themselves quite expensive. A standalone trash can, Potbelly, is that the name of them? That has a solar panel on it that lets you know when it's time to change it, is at least a couple $1,000s per garbage can. So the technology is there, but where the value of a true smart city is when you are bringing together various technologies on a common network, right? So you're sharing that cost across, you're driving the cost down, you're running multiple applications on the same, think about communications network, but you're also taking that data back and bringing data together that is, okay, what if we brought together our energy data with the water data? Would we better manage energy and water because you waste one, you waste the other? Right now, those two entities in most cities don't talk. What new insights could you find? Oh my gosh, if we don't pump at this time of day, we can drive down the peak, which then will result in the lower rates for our customers as a city. That's a win for everybody. Right now, they don't talk. But if that data was brought together, that's part of the value. So why is it so hard? You are getting utilities to talk to other utilities, to talk to the city, to talk to the university, to share data, to figure out privacy, to share technology, to figure out the IP involved in that. And oh, by the way, what we didn't touch on is who pays for all this? So that's why it's hard. The technology's there, the wherewithal starting to be there, figuring out how to do this well, that's why it's hard.
Well, sounds pretty easy to me. We don't have time for any more questions because we just ran out. Thank you all for being an attentive audience. And I'd like to congratulate, thank you very much.